This will be a more in-depth look at the Prelude in E minor by Chopin. We're going to mostly go over the notes and musicality and some of the terms. I'm not going to really go too much into the chord structure, although it is super interesting in this one, since Chopin is kind of moving downward from this E chord here and trying to make it down to a lower E chord, but it's almost like he can't make it until a certain point in the piece. So, things to look at. Largo. Largo means slow. We have one sharp. This, I've already said we're in the key of E minor. That is the key of E minor. How do we know that? We look at the first and last chord of the piece to see if they match, if they're both the same chord and they match with the key signature, then that's usually going to be your key. The time signature is cut time. Cut time is 2/2. This does not mean faster. Cut time or any time signature actually has absolutely nothing to do with tempo. That's a misconception about the time signature. Time signature is really just a composer's way of giving you two things: an organization of the notes. So it organizes the notes into a beat pattern and telling you kind of where they want you to feel the pulse or the beat. Now, feeling the pulse or the beat doesn't mean giving the pulse or the beat. And I'm going to give you a really quick example of that before we get started in looking at the notes of the piece. So this is not what he means. Now, 2/2 time means 2 beats per measure. Now, I mean, obviously I'm over-exaggerating, but you definitely don't want that. We don't actually want to have any obvious big beat pulse going on in this piece. So let's just get started. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through sections of the piece. And this way you can follow along with me. You can rewind, fast forward, and go to whatever you need to help you out. Now it does say espressivo, that's a cognate for expressive. I mean, of course you need to be expressive. It's music. So let's do the first 2 lines. And just know, I'm not going to play metronomically, meaning I'm not going to keep an even beat all the time. Now look at the pattern of what the left hand is doing. Notice that most of the time, it's just one note moving down by half steps. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because I need to scroll it down. So you get the idea. And like I said, a lot of the left hand is just moving one note down by half steps. The only part is between the first and second measure, where you go from this chord here to this chord. So moving down just slightly there most of the time. So let's move on down to the next 2 lines. Try to get this exactly placed. So in these 2 lines, it gets a little bit more complicated. The dynamics are going to change a little more. And Chopin does give us a few dynamic markings and that we think he gave us. And then there's also the acciaccatura over there. Now, an acciaccatura, I'm going to zoom in on it. An acciaccatura is a type of grace note. And this type of grace note is the kind where you see the line through it, and it means to play it quickly before the beat. The problem is, most people don't do that with this piece. And a lot of times with Chopin, you don't do that at all. What you're going to do is play it like an appoggiatura, which means you're going to play it on the beat. It's still going to be faster than the note that is labeled here, the 8th note. This is just a way of labeling a grace note. So you'll hear how I play it when we get there. Moving this back to there so you can see both lines. So I'm going to start right at the beginning of that line. do this. Now I'm going to stop right here. This is really the next section. And before I do anything else, I'm going to talk about pedaling. Most of this piece needs to be pedaled. Doesn't matter what Chopin wrote. You've got to pedal this. It sounds terrible if you don't. There's one spot you don't want to pedal. Right hand, right here. Now, I should say, I don't like to hear it pedaled. If you like it, go ahead and do it. See what you want to, see what you can do with it, and do what you like with it. The reason I don't like it pedaled is I like this right hand to be clean. There's no left hand here. It's the one time where the left hand is resting. So whenever the left hand is resting, I want to make sure I'm bringing out that right hand, and I like it to sound a little cleaner. This isn't always going to be the case, but for this piece it is. So let's scroll down here. We're going to get to, I'm going to have to zoom in out just a little bit. Couple new words. Stretto means go faster. So this whole section is a little bit quicker. Now, that's up to your own interpretation on how much quicker it should be. And some of that can go towards basically just how much you're capable of doing, how much you want to do. There's a couple spots down here where he's actually written pedal in, which is kind of strange, but this just basically means make sure you do pedal here. If you don't pedal anywhere else, you gotta pedal in these spots. That's what Chopin's saying there. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. And I'm going to start back here again. This takes us to the ending. So you get the idea. There's, of course, a lot of big dynamic changes as well as tempo changes. Now, towards the end, we're almost to the end here. I'm going to start right here. This gets quieter and it slows down. Smorzando is going to slow you down a little bit here. And so, and when you get to this rest, don't be scared to take more time. You want to let the audience feel like, okay, did they forget what happens next? Don't take too much time, but take enough to where it feels like, oh, where's that chord? I want to hear that chord. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. Another one of these. Yeah, those grace notes. Give it time. So that's Chopin's Prelude in E minor. That's number 4 out of his preludes. If you have any questions for me, just let me know, and I hope this was helpful.